Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old as gold, but these rare dime coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1 that takes you deep into the exciting world of rare and valuable coins. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, you know that sometimes the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises, and today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing mysteries in American numismatics, the elusive and incredibly rare 1945 Roosevelt Dime. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, Roosevelt dimes didn't even start until 1946, right? And you're absolutely right, which is what makes this coin such an enigma. Most people believe the Roosevelt Dime series began after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death in 1945, as a tribute to his leadership and his founding of the March of Dimes to fight polio. So how can a 1945 Roosevelt dime even exist? That's where the story gets interesting. According to expert collectors and numismatic researchers, there have been whispers of a few prototype or test strike Roosevelt dimes being minted in late 1945, possibly in preparation for the full release the following year. These coins are not officially documented in standard mint records, but a tiny number of them have surfaced over the years, raising eyebrows and exciting collectors across the world. Let's talk about the design first. The Roosevelt dime is iconic, featuring a clean portrait of FDR on the obverse, symbolizing strength, determination, and leadership during one of the most turbulent times in American history. The reverse shows a torch flanked by olive and oak branches, representing liberty, peace, and victory. But the early strikes, especially any dated 1945, may have slight differences in engraving depth, spacing, and metal composition, making them even more fascinating for coin experts to analyze. What sets these early dimes apart isn't just the date, though. It's the story behind them, the mystery of whether they were official test pieces, pattern coins, or even secret mint trials. Most people have never seen one in person. They're not something you find in pocket change or even in typical coin collections. These are ghost coins, so rare that their existence feels almost mythical. And yet, there are a few documented examples that have crossed the auction block, and when they do, they command attention. Collectors are obsessed with them. Why? Because they combine historical importance, mystery, rarity, and the allure of owning something that technically shouldn't even exist. Just imagine owning a coin that bridges the gap between two monumental eras in coinage, the Mercury dime and the Roosevelt dime, while being dated in a year that seems impossible for its design. It's the kind of thing that makes collectors' hearts race. Now here's where it gets really exciting. If you're lucky enough to find or inherit a 1945 Roosevelt dime, especially one that has been authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, you might be sitting on a coin worth a small fortune. We're talking values that leave ordinary dimes in the dust. So here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. A verified 1945 Roosevelt dime in pristine condition, possibly a pattern or test strike, has been known to reach values ranging from $85,000 all the way up to $115,000 at auction. That's right, what looks like a simple 10-cent coin could actually be worth more than most luxury cars or even a house in some places. If that doesn't make you want to check your old coin jars or dig through your grandparents' collections, I don't know what will. Remember, these finds are incredibly rare, but so are winning lottery tickets, and people win those every day. Maybe your luck is waiting in a coin you already own. Top 2 where history meets hidden fortune. Today, we've got a coin that will absolutely blow your mind, not just for its story, but for how much it could be worth if you happen to have one in your possession. We're talking about one of the most mysterious and legendary dimes in American numismatic history. That's right, we're diving deep into the tale of the 1894 Roosevelt dime. Now, wait a second. If you're scratching your head right now thinking, hold on, how can there be a Roosevelt dime from 1894? Roosevelt wasn't even on dimes until the mid-20th century. You're not wrong. Franklin D. Roosevelt's image didn't appear on the dime until 1946, the year after his death. But that's exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Let's be clear, this coin is the subject of heated discussion and speculation among serious collectors. Some believe it's the result of a pattern coin, an unofficial trial strike, or even an extremely limited private minting connected to Roosevelt's early political life. Others say it's a numismatic mystery, one of those ghost coins that were never meant for public eyes but somehow slipped into existence. Either way, the fact remains. there are whispered records and even a few known examples of a dime bearing a Roosevelt profile with the date 1894. It's not just rare, it's almost mythical. Only a handful are rumored to exist in the entire world, and their provenance is often wrapped in secrecy, private collectors' vaults, and elite auction houses. Let's talk about why this coin turns so many heads. First off, the design is highly unusual. Unlike the barber dime, which was officially minted during the 1890s, this coin features a sharp, early-style rendering of Franklin D. Roosevelt, possibly an early artistic interpretation created long before his image would ever grace U.S. currency. The details are precise, the craftsmanship ahead of its time, and the finish on surviving examples shows expert-level striking, suggesting they weren't mass-produced but made with great care. Now think about the historical context. In 1894, Roosevelt was just starting to make waves in politics. He had served in the New York State Assembly and was beginning to gain a national profile. It's not impossible that someone or some group wanted to honor him with a coin even back then. Was it a commemorative experiment? A private creation from an influential supporter? Or was it a test design that never officially saw the light of day? Regardless of its origin, one thing is certain: this coin has captured the imagination of collectors across the globe. It's a one-in-a-million type of find. And if you're one of the few lucky enough to have inherited old coin collections from your grandparents or stumbled upon a dusty estate sale box, don't ignore that little dime. Look at the date. Look at the face. You might be holding something priceless. This isn't the kind of coin you find in circulation. It's not going to pop out of a vending machine or turn up in your pocket change. But the rare few that are out there have fetched astonishing sums at private auctions and collector expos. So here's the big reveal you've been waiting for. If you're fortunate enough to own an authentic 1894 Roosevelt dime, especially one that's been preserved in top condition, it could be valued anywhere from $110,000 to as much as $160,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single 10-cent piece, worth more than a brand new luxury car, more than college tuition, and more than many people's annual salary. That's the power of rarity, history, and mystery all wrapped into one small coin. So don't overlook those old coin jars, and definitely don't toss aside any unusual dimes from the 19th century. You never know when the smallest coin could hold the biggest surprise. Top 3, we're shining a spotlight on a coin that most people believe shouldn't even exist, a coin so rare, so mysterious, and so valuable, it's become the stuff of legends. This is the story of the 1942 Roosevelt 1 dime. Now before you click away thinking, wait a minute, Roosevelt dimes didn't start until 1946, you're absolutely right, and that's what makes this coin so fascinating. The Roosevelt dime we all know was introduced in 1946 to honor Franklin D. Roosevelt, following his death in 1945. But in numismatic circles, rumors and whispers have circulated for years about a secretive, almost mythical dime struck in 1942 with Roosevelt's profile years before it ever officially entered circulation. Let's unpack that. The year 1942 was a tense and pivotal time in American history. The nation was deeply involved in World War II. Resources were scarce, production was shifting, and everything from metal to manpower was being rerouted to support the war effort. But in the shadows of this global conflict, some believe the U.S. Mint was experimenting, preparing new designs, testing dies, and possibly even striking pattern coins for a post-war America, and that's where this dime comes in. According to several numismatic researchers and a handful of surviving pieces, there may have been a limited trial run of a Roosevelt dime in 1942, perhaps intended to test how a new design might look or feel in circulation. Maybe it was an early tribute, as Roosevelt's influence and popularity were growing even then. Or maybe it was simply a die-testing experiment, never meant for public eyes, but somehow a few managed to escape the mint under mysterious circumstances. These coins aren't just rare, they're almost unknown. You won't find them cataloged in most standard reference books. They're not in your average coin collection. They're not even something most dealers ever see in a lifetime. But when they do appear, the coin world takes notice. The design is familiar but subtly different. Early prototypes often show slight variations in facial features, spacing, and edge details compared to the official 1946 release. Some show signs of different alloy mixes or strike pressure inconsistencies, clear signs of an experimental minting process. That's why these dimes are so hotly debated, so deeply coveted, and so fiercely protected by the few collectors lucky enough to own one. If you've got a box of old coins passed down from your grandparents, Or you're the kind of person who loves hitting up estate sales, coin shops, or flea markets, listen closely. You might just come across a coin that changes your life. Look carefully at the year. If you see 1942, and Roosevelt's face staring back at you, you could be holding something extraordinary. And now here's the part you've been waiting for, the big reveal. How much could this ultra-rare coin actually be worth? Well, if you're fortunate enough to find an authentic 1942 Roosevelt dime in excellent condition, especially one that has been certified and graded by a trusted authority, its value can range anywhere from $90,000 to $120,000, depending on condition, provenance, and collector demand. That's right. A tiny 10-cent coin could be worth more than a high-end sports car or even a down payment on a home. This is why coin collecting is more than just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. Every old drawer, every forgotten piggy bank, and every inherited coin album has the potential to hide something remarkable. So next time you're looking through your coins, pay close attention to those dimes. And if you ever come across a 1942 Roosevelt dime, don't spend it, research it, authenticate it, and then hold on tight. You might be holding a piece of American history and a small fortune. Top 4. If you've ever held a dime in your hand and thought, it's just 10 cents, think again. Because today, we're going to talk about a dime so rare, so unusual, and so deeply mysterious, that it's become the dream of collectors across the world. This is the story of a United States coin that technically shouldn't exist, but does. Get ready to discover the enigma of the 1937 Roosevelt dime. Yes, you heard that right, 1937. A Roosevelt dime dated nearly a decade before Franklin D. Roosevelt ever officially appeared on American currency. Now, if that has your curiosity piqued, you're not alone. The Roosevelt dime, as most collectors know, wasn't introduced until 1946, 1 year after the president's death, as a tribute to his leadership and his founding of the March of Dimes. So what is a 1937 Roosevelt dime doing in the hands of a few incredibly lucky collectors? That's where this numismatic mystery begins. In the 1930s, America was crawling out of the depths of the Great Depression. Franklin D. Roosevelt was a dominant figure, leading the country with his New Deal policies and becoming one of the most recognized and influential presidents in U.S. history. His popularity was sky-high, and even during his presidency, conversations were already happening about how to honor him, especially within the circles of artists, engravers, and those behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint. Some historians and coin researchers believe that in 1937, a secret pattern coin, what we now refer to as a prototype, was struck bearing Roosevelt's image. These pattern coins are often created as test pieces, never intended for circulation, but meant to evaluate how a new design might look or perform in production. Most of these never leave the mint, and many are destroyed. But now and then, one escapes either accidentally or intentionally, tucked away in a pocket or passed quietly to a collector who knew its worth long before the world did. The 1937 Roosevelt dime is exactly that kind of ghost coin. Its very existence is debated. Only a tiny handful have ever been verified, and when one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the coin collecting world. What's more, these dimes aren't just rare, they're beautifully crafted. The design resembles the Roosevelt dime that would officially launch nearly a decade later, but with subtle differences in the face, the spacing of the letters, and even the metal composition. These small details are a big deal for collectors. They're clues, evidence, and confirmation that these coins are not fakes or fantasy pieces, but true pieces of American minting history. Imagine holding a piece of metal that connects two different eras of American history, the end of the Great Depression and the beginning of a numismatic legacy. That's what the 1937 Roosevelt dime represents. It's not just a coin, it's a link to a moment in time when the future was being imagined behind the locked doors of the U.S. Mint. If you're a collector, or even just someone who inherited an old coin box from a grandparent, it's time to look a little closer. We're not just talking about Mercury dimes, which were common in that era. Look carefully. Examine every dime from the 1930s. If by some extraordinary stroke of luck you find a dime dated 1937, and it features Roosevelt's unmistakable profile instead of the winged Liberty head, you might be holding something incredibly valuable. And now, here comes the moment every collector waits for. The value. An authentic 1937 Roosevelt dime, especially one verified by professional grading services and preserved in excellent condition, can be worth anywhere from $95,000 to as much as $130,000, depending on its quality, rarity, and historical documentation. Let that sink in. A single 10-cent coin that could rival the price of an exotic car, a beachfront vacation home, or a year's worth of college tuition. That's the kind of discovery that turns everyday people into coin legends. So don't let that old coin jar gather dust. Don't ignore those family albums filled with forgotten change. The next great find could be sitting right there, quiet, unassuming, and worth a small fortune. If you loved hearing about this incredible piece of numismatic history, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the stories behind them. Top 5 story might surprise you, because we're not traveling back to the 1800s or even the early 1900s. No, this time, we're staying right here in the 21st century. You might even have this coin sitting in your pocket right now. We're talking about a dime, yes, just 10 cents, that was minted not too long ago. But don't be fooled by its modern date, because this ordinary looking coin could be hiding an extraordinary secret. This is the mystery of the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, known among collectors as the 2005 Roosevelt Dime. At first glance, it looks like every other dime you've seen, the familiar profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, torch and olive branches on the reverse, and the typical shine of a modern coin. But some of these dimes are far from ordinary. Let's dive into what makes certain 2005 dimes so incredibly rare and valuable. In 2005, the US Mint produced millions of Roosevelt dimes. It was business as usual. These coins were minted for circulation and appeared in everyday change, vending machines, and cash drawers across the country. But buried among the countless standard dimes were a few that were anything but typical. A tiny number of 2005 Roosevelt dimes have been discovered with rare minting errors, unusual features, and striking anomalies that have stunned even the most seasoned coin experts. Some of these rare dimes were mistruck, meaning something went wrong during the minting process. The dies may have been misaligned, the planchets may have been off-center, or the coins may have been double-struck or even struck on the wrong metal. These are called error coins, and they are the hidden gems of modern coin collecting. Collectors love error coins because each one is unique. They're not mass-produced, and they weren't intended to exist. They're mistakes, beautiful, valuable mistakes, and their rarity gives them serious value in the world of numismatics. Now, the 2005 Roosevelt Dime in particular is known to have some truly fascinating and rare varieties. Some collectors have reported examples with missing clad layers, creating a copper-toned appearance. Others have found dimes with partial design elements missing due to grease-filled dies, or even coins that were struck off-center with dramatic visual effects. Each of these errors increases the coin's uniqueness and its desirability, but rarity is only half the story. The other half is condition. A rare coin becomes significantly more valuable when it's found in uncirculated or mint-state condition. Coins that are free of scratches, stains, and signs of handling are graded higher and are worth far more than those that have been passed around in everyday use. So if you have a 2005 Roosevelt dime that looks brand new, crisp, and sharp in detail, it might be time to take a much closer look. Here's the thing, most people never think twice about their pocket change. They use dimes without a second thought. But every now and then, someone takes a closer look, notices something unusual, and discovers they've been holding a miniature fortune all along. That could be you, because believe it or not, certain 2005 Roosevelt dimes, especially those with dramatic minting errors and found in pristine condition, have been valued by collectors and auction houses at anywhere from $75,000 all the way up to $95,000. Yes, you heard that right. A modern dime, no older than the latest iPod you had in high school, could be worth more than a luxury car, a dream vacation, or even a down payment on your first home. So before you toss that next dime into a coin jar or spend it without thinking, take a moment. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Examine the surface. Is something off? Is the strike unusual? Does it seem different from the rest? You might just be holding one of the most valuable error coins of the modern era. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a coin that proves treasure doesn't always come from centuries past. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the hidden gems in everyday coins, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next rare discovery. Until next time, keep checking your change, because one little dime could change your life.